level 1, part 2. Level 1, part 2 has 2 sections. We're going to deal with parallelograms, and we're going to deal with trapezoids. Now, both of these relate back to a rectangle. So let's say that this rectangle is 6 inches by 6 inches, and let's say that it is 3 inches by 3 inches. How would I find the area of the rectangle? What's my formula we talked about? You could say base times height, because what do you know about all the angles of a rectangle?
It's 90 degrees.
So technically, could we call the length and width the base and height?
Yeah.
Sure, because they're all 90 degrees. So if I did base times height, what's my base? 6 inches times 3 inches. And what do I get?
18 inches.
18 inches squared. Or you can say square inches. So that's how much area or room that shape takes up. It takes up 18 square inches. They don't always have to be perfect squares. Okay, but that's how much total area it's going to be. Now let's move on to a trapezoid. Or not a trapezoid, excuse me, a parallelogram. Pretty close. Alright, let's say that this base is still 6 inches. How long is this line?
4.
Compared to your rectangle, how long do you think this line is?
3.
5.
4.
Would it be
4 or
3?
5? No.
No, because what was 3 inches? A 90-degree angle down to the base, right? So this is 3 inches. So what's my height?
3 inches.
The height is 3 inches. Does that have anything to do with this measurement right here? No. Do you see my point?
Yeah.
Base is connected to height by a 90-degree angle. What degree angle is this? What degree angle is that? Not 90. I'll tell you that. So it's not 90 degrees. So even if this was, let's say this was 4 inches. And I'm just making numbers up. Since it's on a diagonal, it's probably going to be longer. So can anybody tell me how I could find the area of this parallelogram? And I'm going to show you something real quick. Watch this. If I took this piece right here and cut it off, would it fit somewhere else on that shape?
Mm-hmm.
Where?
The other end.
Right. If I took this and put it right over here. So let's do that. This shape right here, I'm going to put right here.
A rectangle.
What shape did I just create? What's the base of that rectangle?
Oh, that's
What's the
18.
base of that rectangle?
Oh, not
6
not
inches.
the area.
What's the height?
3.
Did anything change?
No.
No, the only thing that changed is this. Watch. I'm going to take this away, and I'm going to put it back over here.
Dun dun dun.
So how do you find the area of a parallelogram?
Oh.
Wasn't it the same as the rectangle?
Yeah.
So how do you find the area of the parallelogram?
Same thing.
Base times height, absolutely. So it would be 6 inches times 3 inches. Do I care one bit about that 4 if I'm finding an area?
No.
No, if I was finding perimeter, I would, because what's perimeter?
Outside.
The outside. I would add this up with this and this and this, and I wouldn't care about the height. So what you need to realize, my point here is that you need to realize that a parallelogram is the exact same amount of space as a rectangle with the same base and height. So base is 6, height is 3. My base is 6, my height is 3. They have the same exact area. Because all I have to do is take this piece and put it right over here and it's the same shape. Now let's talk about what's the main difference between a parallelogram and a rectangle. What does a rectangle have that a parallelogram does not have?
4 right angles.
4 right angles. That's the only difference. So you take this rectangle and you take these walls and shift it over like that. What did it now become? A parallelogram. So a parallelogram has to have what? Why do you think it's called parallelogram?
Does it have parallel lines?
It has parallel lines. It has 2 sets of parallel sides. So this is parallel. This would never touch this line. if I drew it accurately. These would never touch this line. Does that make sense? Parallelogram. So you need to know that, right? So we have squares and rectangles. How do you find the area of squares and rectangles? Okay, base times height, you could say length times width, but we might as well be more advanced and let's call it base times height. So B base times height equals area. Okay, triangles. We found out that a triangle is half of a rectangle or square. So, how do you find the area of a triangle? Audrey?
Base times height.
It's alright, let it ring. Base times height. And you said what, Audrey?
Divided by 2.
Okay, you could go divided by 2, or what else could we do?
Half.
Yeah, we could go, oops, I need to put triangle here. So triangle is, let's go base times height divided by 2, or we could do half of base times height. We good there? Okay, a parallelogram. We learned that a parallelogram is the same as a rectangle, right? So what's my formula? Parallelogram.
Times height.
Base times height. Okay, now we run into the trapezoid. And here's what I want you to see about the trapezoid. Let's look at my rectangle again. So I have this. I'm going to try to draw it the same. 3-inch by 6-inch rectangle, right? You with me? Okay, what do you know about a trapezoid? What's it look like? What's true about usually the top and bottom? If you twist it, no matter what. Are they the same? No, so it'd almost be like this. I'm going to extend this, but I'm going to make this shorter. Does that make sense? Okay, I'm going to extend this out, but I'm going to make this shorter. So this is going to, let's say this is 1 inch and 1 inch. So I extended it by 1 inch on each side, right? Let's go ½ an inch. ½ an inch on each side. So what would this go to? 7. So it's going to go from 6 inches to 7 inches. Actually, we can go by a full inch. So let's just say it's 8 inches. Let's get away from the half. So an inch and an inch. This is now 8 inches. Okay, I took an inch off of each side here. So this went from 6 to what?
6 to 4.
4. What's my height? My height is still what?
3.
My height is still 3. I'm just going to put it inside now. Do you see the difference between those?
Yes.
Okay, now watch. A rectangle has a base. The base here is 6 inches. What's the base up here? 6 inches. In my parallelogram, what was the base? What was my base? 6 inches. What's my base here? What's my base here?
4.
But I just showed you a second ago that what if I took and added on an inch and an inch? What would this become? This would go to 6, and then I would have to do what to this one? I would have to take away an inch. So I take away this inch, take away this inch, and what does this go back to? 6 inches. So what did I do with that 8 and 4? I found the middle of the two. So I didn't find the median, but what did I find? Thank you. I found the what of 8 and 4? I'll show you the formula. You tell me what I'm doing. The formula is base 1. I'm going to write it over here so I don't do it again. So we have trapezoid.
Base 1 plus base 2 times half.
But I'm going to change that. I'm going to change that up a little bit. I like to go with this one. Base 1 plus base 2 divided by 2 times the height. When you add two numbers together and divide by 2, what are you finding?
The median.
No.
The mean.
You're finding the mean. You're finding the average.
Oh.
So base 1 plus base 2 divided by 2 is finding the average base times the height. So this is what I would say. I would say that this is the same thing as average base times height. What's 4 plus 8?
12.
Base 1 plus base 2. So B1 plus B2. B1 is 8 inches plus 4 inches equals what? 12 inches divided by 2.
6 inches.
6 inches times, what's my height? 3. Isn't that the exact same thing I did on the rectangle? 6 inches times 3. Same thing as my parallelogram. But what's the difference? Rather than saying base times height, what do you say?
Base 1 plus base 1 plus
You find the average of the two bases. Okay, I'll give you one more and then I'll set you free. Let's do this. Okay, let's say that this is, just making something up here, 5 feet and 3 feet. And this is 1 foot. Do I have to keep the shape like that? What if I
No.
took it like this and I flipped it? What would it now look like?
A weird shape.
Would it look like that? And what would this be? 3 feet. What would my base be?
5.
5 feet.
And then 3.
And what's my height?
Oh yeah. 1.
1 foot. So just because it's sideways like that, you don't have to keep it that way. You could take it and rotate it. So let's use our formula. What's my average base going to be? If this is 3 and that's 5, what's the average of 3 and 5? 5 plus 3 is? 5 plus 3 is 8, divided by 2 is? 4. So this would be the same thing as me drawing a rectangle that looked like this. 4 feet by 1 foot. It's the same exact thing. I just found the average of my two bases. So my formula would read 3 feet plus 5 feet.